Welcome, everybody. Episode 2 with Maitreya and myself here to talk a little bit more about women empowerment related to martial arts and life in general, I guess. Did you have any specific follow-up things from last time that we talked about Maitreya that you're like, oh, I really wanted to add this piece in, or maybe you wanted to dive in a little bit deeper of like, oh, I want to expand a little bit more on this? Anything off your top of your head? Putting you on the
Let's
spot.
see. I don't know where to start.
You know what I've been thinking, if you're okay, if we start is I'd love to maybe kind of look at, review, and get your perspective about rules and etiquette in the martial arts dojo. I think people have various different opinions and thoughts about rules, and maybe not a lot of people have an understanding about what etiquette is, because I think etiquette maybe has, for me at least, a very Asian cultural vibe, and that also permeates and correlates dojo settings. So, did you have any thoughts to share? And then I'm happy to chime in too, or I can go first, whatever you like.
Sure. Yeah, I think the whole dynamic of etiquette is where someone who's new to martial arts um, learns this deeper layer of humility and sophistication. And actually, that is one of my favorite things about learning martial arts, from the very beginning, uh, yes, from the very beginning. And
What do you mean?
uh,
What do you mean by that?
because there's a structure from which to make progress and measure progress. And you can say that in one way, it's like you can say it's kind of it puts people in a relatable context. Now, of course, things are not linear necessarily, but it
Right.
helps to have these things in the physical world to tell you, like, where are you at, right? And it actually helps people learn to know where they're at, where they're at. And you can say, like, even in like technique ranking, where are they at? Like, what belt do you have? What belt do other people have who are around you? And as long as the system is truly merit based,
Yes.
then what that does is it gives people an accurate orientation of how to make and who to look to as an example to make them. And
That well said.
yeah, and it also gives a a a very tangible baseline of integrity. So if
What
you
do you mean
are
by that? Yes.
so if you're like I said, if the system is truly merit based, now that's the
Right.
key. The
Mm.
system is truly merit based, then that means that the higher ranking people are in a merit based way. They're the senior most members. The more like if you're facing the front of the dojo, usually, and you're in a kind of a traditional martial arts system, which is usually going off of a Japanese, in many cases, a Japanese, like we're saying dojo, so a Japanese
Yes. Yes.
structure. Then the people, if you're facing the front, more to the left, are the higher or highest ranking folks,
Wait,
right?
so if you're lining up, because in our dojo, when you line up and this is like the showman, which is the front of the room, our most senior students line up on the right. Is that what you mean?
Oh, so like if they're, yeah, if I guess, well, yeah, and in my experience, like if they're facing the room, if you're
Correct.
facing the class, then yeah, they're on the right,
Yes. And
right?
then
Yes,
your left.
yeah.
Yes,
But
got it.
if you're facing them, right, like then it's the people on the left. Yeah, yes. But anyway, yeah, just different expressions of yeah. But yeah, and that means that there's like there's a kind of there's a formula to um, to progress, which is getting the foundations right, the techniques right, and presumably, if the system is right, then that means that if you're looking at a senior member, then their techniques should look good. And so with integrity, then the senior members should make sure their techniques look good. And and because there's that implicit system of integrity, then when the students look to them and it looks good, then they know the example to follow.
Mhm.
And then it helps everyone. You know?
And I want to
Yeah.
backtrack a little bit. Maybe give your definition of what a merit-based system is, just so the definition we can all be on the same page for. Yes, because I agree with you.
Yeah, a merit-based system. It means that if someone's technique basically fulfill the requirements or the criteria of what a correct technique is, usually that would mean like, does that work? Does it hold up? Does it fulfill the factors that it needs to be the right technique? So, for example, if somebody were to deliver like a jab or a cross or, whatever, like these different punches, is your stance correct? Are you balanced?
Right.
And it's different for different martial arts, but there's a set of criteria for it. And you would imagine that a senior member who's been doing that for a number of years and who's in that part of the line would have good techniques.
Correct. And I also hear that merit-based system is also predicated upon the person putting in the valuable work that is aligned with whatever the dojo um, etiquette is for the technique levels to be reached in order to be considered a certain rank, right? It's not like I come in and I bring my little resume from past dojos. Okay, give me this belt rank. It's, every dojo is a space and place where you have to put in your own personal work to demonstrate your level of achievement, accomplishment, understanding of each technique at each level to be able to be deemed that specific belt rank. Would you say that is true? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, that's definitely true. Where, you can come in and say, here's my resume, but they'll say, well, show me your technique. And, if it's if you come from a dojo from the same system, just a different city or something like that, maybe they'll accept what you're saying because they're like, oh, you were in the same place. I know that sensei, it's the same. We're under the same umbrella. Maybe they would
Right.
accept it,
Right.
but usually, at least in my experience, they would say, well, let's see what you got. Let's go through the gamut of the core
Yeah.
techniques, and then
Yes.
let's see where you rank there.
I don't know if you've had this experience because specifically for me, I reached brown belt level, first degree brown belt. And then it was that perfect time where I ended up moving to a different city completely. Luckily, I had a referral from my previous dojo of like, oh, check out this specific sensei at this dojo that he's teaching at and see if you can feel like there's an alignment and if that's the right fit for you to then transition to this dojo. And so I did. And I was at the first degree brown belt ranking. So I went in with that rank and was then tested soon thereafter for my second degree brown belt. And it was very clear that I had to um, drop away anything and everything I had, I guess, previously learned from my previous dojo, not because it was bad or anything, because I had a foundation, but I had to be very open and receptive to this new set of dojo rules and etiquette of what they were asking to see in these specific techniques, even though I was familiar with them from my previous dojo, because they wanted to see it in this way that they felt was more practical, more realistic, and worked with the specific partners slash ukes, training partners in my dojo that would give me a very specific attack energy to meet that criteria, which was very different compared to my dojo. And that was a interesting transition for me. And I would say interesting, almost not easy, because I felt like it was like a high schooler that moved to a different state and had to start high school again. And everyone had kind of their cliques and groups and dynamics. And I'm like the new kid, and I'm like, I want to be your friend. If that makes sense. Have you had that experience at all as a
Oh,
new dojo?
well,
Yeah.
yes. Actually, so when I was working on my Taekwondo degree, so my Taekwondo black belt, I actually moved from one dojo to another in a
Mm-hmm.
different city, and definitely there were some commonalities, but they did things differently, you know.
Yeah.
And so, to there's some parity, but not completely with like the standards of the previous one to the new one. And so with the new one, I definitely had to perform some different standards.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
for that particular dojo, I also needed to run a mile, and I needed to run a mile, improving my mile time by 45 seconds. So, and so there was like this emphasis on cardio. There was more too, but that was
Yeah.
a big athletic part of it. I was like, hey, do
Interesting.
all these things. So for that, I needed um, to do a lot of running
Really?
every week.
Really?
Yeah, it was incredible. It was incredible though, actually, because I did beat my mind to 90 seconds or more, and it just they really they motivated me to get myself to a new level.
Yes.
So I thought that was very humbling, and I couldn't just say, like, well, I did this stuff, well, I'll do this stuff now
No,
and do this
thank you for saying.
cardio thing. Yeah.
And thank you for saying that, because that I feel like I want to circle back to the rules and etiquette of the dojo, because I agree with you. I feel like etiquette is the personal refinement process that we go through as we are engaging in these rules in this dojo structure, right? It's like I don't know, one of those Jetson little machines where you like put in dirty dishes on one conveyor belt and it's like boo, 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 and it comes out like this really nice packaged whatever thing, that's like how our experience, at least that's been my experience going through the dojo rules etiquette structure. And I would say, or I would ask you, what have you found has been really positive takeaways, or any takeaways in abiding by, following, or engaging in rules and etiquette from the various different dojos you've been part of? What has been the benefits from that?
Well, I think it's really a training in humility. I think that's important.
Mm,
It keeps the beginner's mind sharp,
yeah.
and um, I feel like it's kind of a it's a funny test in a way where it's like, has somebody gotten to such high a level that they're like unwilling to like clean, or make their gi nice, or something like that, right? And usually when you contribute in these ways, there's um there's a camaraderie and an energy about it where it's um like we have hierarchies, right? Because in the hierarchies, like I said, you can see that the senior members have strong technique, and they set an example. Um, but then when you're doing things together and you're cleaning the mat or whatever it is, that's where things actually become fun.
Mhm.
And really, everybody's a contributor to the space, to the place, to the martial art, to the system, to the whatever it is, that everybody benefits from. From that perspective of um, of humility. It's like it's you know, it's been an absolute rewarding experience to be part of communities this way because there's a camaraderie that gets formed when you do things and then, and it's fun, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's the piece that I have seen help build community. Community and camaraderie. Some things of rules and dojo etiquette I can share off the top of my head is one is you bow when you enter the dojo is a sign of respect, and also this awareness consciously in your body of like, okay, I am bowing into a space that is dedicated to this specific thing, and this is where I'm bringing my present mind, and body to be aware that I'm coming into a place that I'm training for myself and also to be of benefit and service to others, right? Then the other one is take off your shoes. As at the front of the door, probably some shoe cubby, or you'll see a stack of shoes to put over there because it also adds to the helpfulness of cleanliness and awareness of cleanliness and how the space is utilized. Um, Another thing is, like you said, the flatness of when everyone is done training, everyone chips in to clean. So it's like if the trash can is filled up, then you bag the trash and put a new bag in. We have little swifter wipers to go around the side of the dojo, and then the different mops to go for the actual mat cleaning kind of thing. It's not just this hygienic thing, but I feel like it's the awareness that you're putting time in here to train for yourself, but then you also put time in to make the space nice, high, and bright so that other people can benefit from that training space as well, right? For the other classes and stuff like that. And I love that awareness thing. And I know I feel it very much, in my years at the dojo when maybe a certain class or certain people are a little bit lax around the dojo etiquette in the world I'm talking about right now of cleanliness. You're like, oh man, okay, now we got to keep taking out the trash because the last class keeps not taking out the trash, right? That kind of thing happens, and they're like, geez, come on guys, let's chip in, right? It's this communal space. It's of that almost is a rare thing because not necessarily are there a lot of facilities and places where a group of people live or train or spend time together, unless maybe it's a monastery or something like that, or a dormitory of that sense. But I'm kind of thinking it's a little more sacred space vibes. So that's more like monastery where the communal space is mindfully cared for and considered, and how you also place your things. Part of the etiquette, we have cubby holes in the female change room, and sometimes we have a lot of stuff, but you try to keep your stuff nice and tidy. You're not taking, three cubby hole rooms of stuff if you can fit everything into one kind of thing, to be mindful that other people can utilize the space. So I feel like rules and etiquette also have this placeholder of not just humility for ourselves, but also this awareness of other people, right? And how our actions, choices, and behaviors affects others. And that is intended to bring everyone up in a very high, bright way. So everyone benefits. Like I know I super enjoy, well, I don't really enjoy cleaning the bathroom, but I enjoy going to use a clean bathroom. So therefore, that's the benefit.
Right, right.
Yeah, go ahead. Were you having thoughts?
Satisfaction of a job well done.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the things that you mentioned, that's really beautiful. Yes, there's such an awareness of the other. And that's such a key part of martial arts, especially effective martial arts, is to have an awareness of yourself and others. And that includes like your space and being clean. And also, it feeds into a lot of the, you can call it cognitive, but I can also call it spiritual aspects of
Yeah.
martial arts where you grow in those awarenesses,
Yeah.
and it's like, your spatial awareness, you know where everything is. You know that it's clean, you know, and you know that you've prepared it for others. And others, they'll do the same. They'll also prepare it for you.
Right.
It really does build that sense of community,
Yeah.
a kind of um, selflessness and collective regard
Yeah.
that, and that's you know, it's a sophistication, you know, but it's also just like it's a great way to be, and it's a great way to treat others.
And you're making me
Yeah.
think of the word reciprocity in this very generative, positive reciprocity around this selflessness, right? Because the selflessness becomes this beautiful form of service. And I know for myself, coming in as a white belt, I couldn't be where I'm at if I didn't have the senior students putting in their time, energy, and effort into training me, refining me, saying, no, don't do it that way. You should do it this way. Test prepping with me, for my tests. And I love that very selfless, generative, synergistic reciprocity that happens in the dojo. It feels so good and also fuels me so much, fuels me literally energetically when I can finish class and maybe see another belt person, no matter what rank, testing and prepping for a belt test. I'm like, hey, do you need a training buddy? You want a body to run through some techniques on? Do you have questions? Whatever it is. And when that dialogue happens and engagement happens, beyond and after class, it's this beautiful further space of building greater connections, right? And then you see maybe the other person have their aha moments or have some breakthrough that I personally can witness because I was part of that process. It just is so happy, high and bright. Like I literally will drive home from, dojo training and I'm like, oh my God, whatever has happened earlier in the day with work, I'm like, I feel so good, right? That service piece is so fulfilling and fuels for me so much of my spirit and my soul. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I want to talk a little bit about there's a couple elements there that you mentioned.
Mm.
Um, one of them that I want to talk about is well, so you mentioned like bowing, right, when you enter the dojo and also when you exit the dojo, and that um, that gesture of attention to coming into this space. And the dojo is in a way it is a sacred space. It's supposed to be a safe space for learning where people develop these skills to defend themselves and to condition their body in a way that they would be able to do that. And it needs to be an environment where somebody can feel safe to grow, but at the same time be challenged to grow,
Yeah.
And so, and there's that bow that happens when you enter, and there's that bow that happens when you leave. There's also that bow that happens at the beginning of a sparring match,
Yeah.
or the beginning of a class,
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
that bow that happens afterwards too. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that what you naturally learn in a martial arts class is that mindfulness,
Yes.
being in the present moment. And it's not easy all the time, but when you get challenged, you can really face these really difficult states of mind, being scared,
Mm.
being angry, being nervous, all these things. you know, when you're trying to perform these techniques, and especially when you're doing a bout with someone, you know.
Can I chime
Yeah,
in on that
yeah,
presence of moment and presence of body? Is I think there's a real medicine there because there is no phones, at least in our dojo, on the mat. And if it's somewhere, wherever it is, it's on silent. So it's not disruptive, right? So everyone comes into that space so presently. And I feel like it can be such a medicine to today's day and age because it allows you just be there and nothing else. And I feel like that's also what I gain so much when I leave the dojo. It's like, oh, I had a chunk of space in my day that was for me, and I was being able to be there presently, right, without any other distractions. It's such the antithesis to what we are barraged and bombarded with today in technology.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's very consuming to the attention, to have to be present in your body to perform these techniques that, stances, punches and kicks or grapples and holds or whatever it might be,
Mhm.
um, someone's working on, but you have to be really present to to do those things correctly, to develop the right muscle, the motion and the muscle memory and everything.
100%.
So,
You're not like,
yeah,
wait, what's on my calendar today? Okay, smack in the face. Or, oh, who do
right,
I need to
right.
text today? Okay, now I'm pinned on the ground. Okay, maybe I need to tap now because this is going too far.
It's yeah, and it's also like it's a great lesson in presence, especially when you're sparring someone, actually, especially when you're sparring someone, is that if
Always.
you're not paying attention, if you're not in the present moment, you're gonna get hit or something's gonna happen, right? And so you have to be there, you have to be switched on and ready to go. And it really challenges the attention span, in ways
Yes.
that is powerful, right? Like and what I like to think of it as, it's capacity building, right?
Mm,
Because you're dealing with for the most part, like grades of adverse circumstances in a way, right? So it's like, and then sometimes it's a little bit, and sometimes it's more, and you develop this resilience by
yes.
by doing that gradually, and when you're sparring someone too, like if you get hit, if you get frustrated, you get angry, and it's quite a mindfulness exercise to be like, okay, I just failed at that thing again, and then I'm angry. Am I angry at myself? Am I angry at the
Mm,
person? Like, there's just anger that comes up, or for some people, like discouragement, right?
mm.
And so all these things that come up, it's really powerful to be present with, and also to learn humility, and I would call it like a compassionate witnessing of yourself, instead of acting on those impulses. So,
No, totally. And it makes me think of the word mindfulness, right? This
yeah.
mindfulness practice that you become, at least for me, very mindful and aware of what and how my patterns and behaviors are. Like when it's funny, I don't necessarily say I would go into anger. Maybe it is a subtle form of anger, but I just know that my tendency is I'll go into the mat, happy go lucky. Okay, just want to be everyone's friends, right? But this is martial arts. And then next thing you know, maybe I'm training with another black belt. And then so the vibes are just a little bit extra, the intensity, the level. And my body can handle it because also I am at that level too, fine. But it's very fascinating to watch. Usually I come into the dojo happy go lucky, make everyone's friends, and all of a sudden I'll go, what bam, and I'll get like slammed on a throw. And then all my system lights up and as I'm getting up from the mat. I'm like, all right, now it's on. That's like my tendency and behavior, which is fascinating because unless I get that really intense throw first, I happily would just like in this little puppy, rainbow sunshine world on the mat. And it's when the intensity comes, that's when I'm like, all right. And I get up and I can just feel my whole system lit up. And I'm like, boom, boom, let's go.
Time to focus, like
Yes,
really, right?
yes,
It's like, okay,
yes,
all right, it's time to be really sharp,
Yes, exactly. Like
Yeah.
bring my whole self, like it,
Yeah. Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no, just like fingered little toes dipping into the ocean. It's like dive in, soak it up. Everything's here, right? And I love that. And can I just share this funny story about the
Yeah.
bowing thing? Side note, there is a lot of bowing in the dojo, and for various reasons that we have mentioned, etiquette, respect, this awareness, and all the stuff like that. Well, I was helping this white belt train for their test, and they are Japanese. And I don't know if they were born and raised in Japan, I'm not sure, but Japanese upbringing. And so Japan also bows a lot. And so after every technique I was training with them, she would bow and she would just naturally bow and she would say thank you, in Japanese. Arigato gozaimasu, like every time. And I was like, you have to cut this out because when you are belt testing, I go, your bowing is going to be your opening for someone to get you. And luckily they were training at a rank that it wasn't black belt level. And they're like, okay, like they took the feedback and they heard it, right? But it was cracking me up, and we were both having a hilarious time because they could not stop the conditioning process. Even after I said that, they throw me and they're like, because of it. I was like, stop. And they're like, oh, sorry. Right. And like, we kept trying to work with and breaking this pattern. Right. So much so that towards the end, they bow again and they apologize and like, I'm sorry, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can not bow. And just had me laughing hilariously because yes, on one hand we bow a lot in the dojo, but you don't want to bow that much because for your like potential higher ranking belts. And when they did take their test, I wasn't there and I saw them again. I was like, oh, how did it go? They're like, oh yeah, really good. They passed. I was like, congratulations. And I was like, how's that not bowing coming along? And they chuckled. They're like, we're getting better about it. I was like, good, good. And just it just touched my heart because and it was so funny, right? On one hand, you bow so much in the dojo, but on this other hand, this person's so culturally conditioned to bow so much more that it was like, no, stop doing that. I mean, can you imagine technique, bow, technique, bow? I was like, stop. I'm gonna like sweep your leg. I'm gonna punch you. I'm gonna pull you back down. I was like, no, stop bowing. And they couldn't. It was hilarious. It was hilarious.
It's so, I think it's so fascinating and powerful that you brought up this example
Mhm.
because you can tell from how ingrained that is in this person's behavior that it could be an impediment in some ways. That if you think realistically, let's not forget the essence of why we're learning techniques of martial arts, right? And it's like if you're going to defend yourself on the street, you're not going to
What I
bow
said to
after
them.
every single thing you're performing. In fact, it's really like the most counterintuitive, wrong thing to do. And
That became the joke because I was like, girl,
yeah,
if you're getting chased down and you're fighting some bad guy in the alleyway, are you gonna go? You gotta do something? I'm like, no.
yes, it's no, thank you, and not sorry, right? And I'm just like, oh my god.
Laughing.
And so it is a really good thing for her to work on decoupling that from her technique because usually the way you train is going to be the way you test, and the way you
100%.
train is going to be the way you
100%.
fight,
100%.
right?
100%.
So yeah, so her decoupling that is like maybe a stretch for her brain, like for her muscle memory, but a very important one when it comes to self-defense.
Totally. And my form of fighting is I'm gonna take that first punch to the face and be like, all right, here we are. Now I'm present, bring my whole body. Let's go.
Oh yeah, it would be so good that every time she does it, like people just give her an attack, you
I
know?
was
Like
I was really
it,
considering it. But again, still white belt,
white belt.
pro-
Yeah.
processing. So I was happy, but I mean, you have no idea. The naughtiness, as you know, Maitreya, in my background, I was like, oh, oh,
You had to just keep yourself in check for a little bit. Of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
For later.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
But
yes.
and you're absolutely right. Is these patterns and behaviors that we start to get awareness of for ourselves and others when they're training is so powerful because it absolutely, when we start to break those patterns and those habits, it can be such an amazing breakthrough that I have seen. And it also is so fun, genuinely fun for me when I am practicing with other belts, prepping for the belt test, to be able to playfully, engage in those openings that they create, if you will. Right. So, great examples, we do pins. And if I'm being pinned and my arm's getting tucked behind my back, if you're not positioning correctly one foot to hold that arm there as you're stepping back to create that ma, that space, usually all the time I'll like swing my arm out to see if I can grab them, just like
Yeah.
that, just to
They're
kind
not
of
holding you in an effective hold, right?
yeah,
So you have to get out. You can get out.
yeah. And Sensei does that for us. Like he'll have us, test a technique on him. And I mean, recently when I ended up doing a throw for Sensei, he tugged on my arm just to check my structure. Was I going to topple over? Was I leaning too much? Just to see where my balance was. And like I didn't fall, thank God, and it was okay. But he'll throw that on you sometimes, like, oh, where are you at? Poke you there. Are you still okay? Where's your center of balance? Yeah, yeah.
That's one of the things I really enjoy too. And I've enjoyed it through being corrected. It's not always it's not like always the most pleasant thing, but looking
Sure.
back, I see just how important that is, being corrected. And so one of the martial arts that I had was working on was small circle jujitsu. And one of my senseis at the time is a little bit more unfiltered and very, very direct with feedback. Even
Uh-huh.
swearing also happens at times. But
Sure.
so female sensei, it was great. So what would happen is I would do my technique, which is like very textbook technique, and then she would just look at it and say, "What? Like, like it doesn't like that. This doesn't work right here. Why are you out of balance here? What is it? You know?" And so she was finding loopholes
Yeah.
in my technique and my stance and the way I held myself. And it really showed me how to position my body right, for these practical situations. But
Mm-hmm.
it took her being quite intense and putting in that work where she's like, pushing me around in different places and was like, "Do you see? Why are you out of balance? You shouldn't be out of balance. Your
Wow.
opponent should be out of balance. And you should be the most balanced, and your opponent should be the most out of balance for,
Correct. Correct.
for this
Yes.
lot,
Yes.
right?" So, and it really shows, for me, it showed me my conditioning, which is that, and for me, and I'm going to make a generalization. It's not everybody, but I would say a lot of women are very
Uh-huh. Yes.
accommodating to a partner, right?
Oh,
Right.
yes.
And you don't want to do that when you're defending your life. So I had to condition that out of my movements, out of my stances. It was
I still
intense.
do that. I still do that today. That's still a continued refinement practice and process because it's natural from knowing how my body moves, knowing how I've been thrown, what feels good to my body, right? So when I execute certain techniques to certain people, I have to catch myself that, oh, I'm trying to help them feel good. And I don't want them to feel good. I want them to be uncomfortable. I want them to be stretched out, we're like, no, you're gonna fall into my center. I'm not moving you to your center, right? This is not this
Right.
accommodation process, right? Even though I think when people start, it's very much outside their comfort zone to not cater to the partner, attacker, uke, right? Not to cater to be like, oh, you're not super bendable, so I will here trying to accommodate myself to you, right? Which is not effective. And actually, I feel like puts you in a precarious position, then is not really strong, balanced, centered that could injure yourself and also, it's like it's an all bad thing, right? Whereas when you can keep your structure and integrity around that structure, no matter how they are falling, even if they are just learning to fall and it looks awkward, it looks uncomfortable for them, you at least are demonstrating, right? From kind of even like a senior level, a mentor level, the healthier way to be bodily on the mat so that they can work towards that and start to emulate that, right? So actually, yeah, completely is an what is it? Negating thing when you try to accommodate other people, right? At least that's what I've
Yeah.
seen. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Big reason why I think it's so important for people to learn martial arts, but especially women, because there's a lot of these unconscious or subconscious things operating that you don't see until you get into a different context, like in a martial arts class. If you do this, if you go to martial arts on a regular basis, you start working out those things. You start uncovering those things. And then, it can be challenging but very rewarding to work through.
Yes, and going off the female conditioning, right, in the culture that we live in, this understanding and practice where you're not responsible for the other person's comfort as way of talking about. So I want to just kind of like open this up and be a little and clarify around this. It's not to say that you're not mindfully aware of your attacker and your partner, sparring partner, to no one be injured. I mean, you're constantly minding that for yourself and for the other person, because our dojo is not to train for injury, because it is not sustainable for other people who want to, up level their belt rank and stuff like that. So for sure that's top level. Like no one is training to injure oneself or the other person. So that's a first mindfulness thing. And that's also a sensitivity thing of recognizing how much can they take, you or the other person, in regards to a throw, high falls, a pin, joint locks, whatever it is, right? Everyone's different. Everyone's flexibility is different. Some people are super young and they're like Gumby and they're like, yeah, nothing. You're like, okay, well, that's fine. Let's just move on from there, because I don't need to go to the extreme just to prove that I got you, right? So I just want to recognize there's a sensitivity thing and an awareness around that. But also there's this additional recognition that as you're training up in the dojo ranking, you are responsible for yourself and your body. So this is why sometimes it becomes more dangerous at the level of black belts, because there is the awareness that when you go in to go be the sparring partner as a black belt to another black belt, how much you bring in and how much they dole out, it's your responsibility to be able to take care of your body, to be able to make those falls right and good for your body and not tweak it in some way. And it's the person that's doling out the techniques, as another black belt, to recognize that the force I'm doling it out at, I am doing it in the most high, bright, effective technique way, so that, and clean, I guess is another way of talking about, so that the other person can take correct ukemi falls that is as harmless as possible, as a way of talking about it. Does that make sense? Yeah, yeah. Things
Yeah.
things you want to add to that?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think what you're speaking to is, and not every dojo follows that. Um, and sometimes that can be very unfortunate in terms of injury central.
Yeah.
I, I do think that that's a mark of a very high quality, a very good dojo, is one where people do have that very, very acute consciousness around people's limits and what they're doing. And it's a two-sided thing. And this goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, which is that you need a sacred space
Mm.
where people can learn and develop sustainably and over a long-term period
Yes.
so that they can ideally work towards mastery. And
Yes.
if you're gonna, if you're gonna break yourself and break people, around you, then that's not really a recipe for sustainability of practice. And
And no
so,
one wants to train with you, dude.
yeah, I mean, nobody wants to go there, right? And maybe they'll be unable to, right? And so, and really, what you want to do is really have that care to recognize that you're helping each other develop,
Exactly.
and that makes for a very very good community.
Agree. I feel like this insight and recognition, it's a synergy, right? Because if I'm harming other people, sure, I could do that. Great. I feel so strong. I feel so powerful. Okay, but then no one wants to train with me. And then how am I actually getting better? How am I refining myself? Right? You literally
Yeah,
go out to the playground as a bully, you punch everyone in the face, and we're like, all right, forget you. I don't want to play with
nobody's
you.
going to play with. Yeah, yeah,
Great. So then you're a bully. Okay, you're strong and powerful, maybe, but then you go to the playground, and how much are you enjoying the recess time in the play? You're not, you know? No, there's
yeah.
nothing that's
And progress can it will stop there.
totally, totally.
Yeah,
So I agree with you. I going back to the rules and etiquette, there's not only this respect, this safety, this a sacred space that allows not only for you to develop, but the awareness of others helps facilitate this incredible environment and situation for you to be able to train yourself up and refine and grow and even get feedback, not only from sensei, but from others, whether it's a white belt or a black belt. I love that, and I think that's the beautiful culture around the dojo is this open receptiveness to feedback at whatever rank you are because you recognize the feedback is them pointing out your openings, and by them pointing it out and you working on that, it makes you stronger, it makes you a better martial artist. Like it's a huge takeaway. It's not this pride and ego. It's like, oh, of I don't know, of perfectionistic tendencies or arrogance that it doesn't build anything and doesn't get you or take you anywhere. That's not how it works. That's not what I've seen.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The dojo life.
A dojo life. Yes. Any other last thoughts or comments or even personal experiences around rules and etiquette at the dojo?
Well, um, there was another thing that I kind of wanted to touch on. We touched
Oh,
on it a little bit earlier. That's okay. About when you bow at the beginning of a match and then you bow at the end of a match,
oh, yeah.
kind of like that acknowledgement that, you're entering, it's supposed to be, a safe space, right? And you know that there's some risks in there when you go sparring and everything. But it's like that's, when you bow, that's kind of like when you're in session, right? Where you're working on these sparring techniques with each other. And there's a lot of things that could happen there. But at the end of it, then you bow again. And the idea there is to understand that whatever takes place there is not personal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's it's both people like working out their testing out their technique and trying their best, and you know um yeah, so I just feel like that bowing part, kind of
Mm.
that poignant beginning and that poignant end, it's it's such a mindfulness segment, where you have to let go, like what happened there.
The word that you make me think of is respect, right? And respect can have a lot of different connotations, but I think what I take the meaning of respect is I honor you for showing up, to be here now. And whatever happens in the match, sparring, practice, great. Let that be what that is. And then the end of the bow is I respect and honor what you brought, what you have shown me, what you have taught me, what I have learned from myself. And so this respect has this honoring, this gratitude piece, this appreciation, this this recognition of another, yeah, human being and their all of their stuff coming together with your stuff. No one being perfect at all. I honor you, and I honor myself for showing up as well. Every time, it's funny that you mentioned the bow in, the bow out of the sparring matches, because every time we bow into class and we bow out of class and we have the whole row of students, you know, white belts to black belts, and then you have sensei up there. And then those brief moments, the still moments of just kind of centering yourself and setting the intention, if you will, before class starts, and then bowing. Oh my gosh, my heart always fills so much with so much love of like, yes, this is like the most special space, that gets cultivated and curated to have these like-minded individuals, having a general same intentionality to train, that we're all here together in this time, in this moment to share this experience always feels so special. No matter how many classes, every time we bow in, it's like, and there's a huge line of us, I'm like, I want to always. And then I just love it so much. There's just a lot of love, a lot of love. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an incredible camaraderie, and like you just kind of feel everybody's presence there. And I know that I understand, like I get that feeling that what you're bringing across is it's such a community where we're all focused on that gesture and that moment for
Yeah.
each other in the beginning and in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much there. There's that harmony, peace, and unity, and very special, very special. Yeah. I don't, probably, not too many places you can see and experience that in the world there. I think of church, maybe religious practices and stuff like that. um, Maybe other, groups of people that have like-minded individual things and they have some ritual together. But aside from that, it's maybe as similar as a family, getting together and sitting around dinner table and eating together. And even that is becoming a rare thing because everyone's schedule is so busy and you're around the dinner table and you have the phone on. I mean, it's just getting rarer and rarer.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just,
It's like
mhm.
it has those pieces of a real community ritual.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. It's just an honor to be a part of that kind of culture in a martial arts. And that's a big part of why I love martial arts too, is
Yeah,
the camaraderie that developed through the, through that. And these little gestures of respect and honor
it's beautiful.
matters.
It does matter. It
Yeah.
does matter. So beautiful. Any last little bits before we close it up for today? Thank you so much for this discussion. It's like spanned so much off of the topic of rules and etiquette. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. It's my pleasure to talk about these things. I feel like it's like very new every time. We're just kind of in the moment talking
Yes.
about these things. I guess I'll just close with talking about the rules and etiquette is really it's something that really guides people towards the right way of acting or the right way of holding their attention.
Mm.
But ultimately, it's what happens, like when people follow these rules and all of that, there's more like this essence or feeling behind it, which is what we're talking about, which it helps guide people towards that respect. These are actions you take to convey your respect, to convey honor, to convey camaraderie. And so I think that, rules and etiquette, like on its own, it's quite empty.
Yeah.
But what its intention is to move people into these places, into these states of attention that are really beneficial and help you grow. And that's the beautiful part about the rules and etiquette.
No, 100% agree. 100% agree. It's yes, we have to recognize that okay, there are rules like words on a piece of paper, but the meaning and the energy that it drives and guides an individual to and towards has this community, this space of sacredness, right? Safety, uh, and what is it? Respect, love, concern, but also integrity that really, and service and selflessness. I mean, I can go on, and we've kind of captured it in this whole talk, the essence behind rules and etiquette. But genuinely agree with you. It drives an individual and collectively towards what is the highest and brightest right action, right way of being, nice way of talking. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And it's ultimately it's what people put into it. But if people reflect on it honestly and what these gestures mean and come from that place when doing them,
Mhm.
then they grow tremendously. I know I
Yeah.
have, and yeah,
Me
we
too.
do,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Oh, thank you
Um,
for this time. Thank you, Maitreya.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Until the next time.
Until the next time.